So welcome everybody to this second lesson. We had already one lesson before around like the topic, how you can find better posture in using the Core 360, but also we're going to use not only movements on the chair, but we're going to use movements laying on the floor. So what I would like you to do is like to have a space available where you can easily lay on the floor. If you prefer not to be seen, you keep your camera off. If you want to be seen, so then I can better direct you, then please turn your camera on. And I would like everybody to have a space available where you can lay down on the floor and that you have the Core 360 chair nearby. If you don't have a Core 360 chair, it's fine. You can also do movements later on a more regular chair. It's not a requirement. Good. Now, please, let's start by that you all get up into standing for a moment. Stand up and stand in a quote unquote natural way, like so that your arms are down near your side. Don't stand in a way where you think, oh, I have to keep this or that posture, or I have to throw my shoulders back or do anything. Just do what comes natural to you. And I know you are on camera, you may want to watch, but you may want to look forward, not downwards or so. It's just like that you can pretend you're not going to be watched. Yeah. And just sense for a moment your balance over your feet. And without making any changes, notice if you have more weight over one leg, over one foot, or the other. Can you tell if there's a difference there? And then notice also, like, can you sense where your pelvis is in space? Can you sense where your shoulders are, where your head is? And notice just from your sensory feeling of yourself, if you feel your head feels right in the center of you, or do you feel your head slightly tilted, or you feel your whole self slightly tilted to one side or the other? Don't change anything, just become aware of it. Yeah? And one way to tell, like, is my head maybe a little bit to one side or the other side, or is my shoulder lower? You can imagine there would be a string attached to your right ear and to your right shoulder, and you think about that distance. And then you compare that to the other side in your imagination, a string from your left ear to your left shoulder, and notice if they have about the same distance, or does one side feel shorter, the string feels shorter some way or another. Good. Now stand normally and have your arms down near your side and begin with a small movement to slide down one hand along your thigh or the side of your leg to the side. Just decide for yourself to which side you want to start with. Do you start with the right hand sliding along to the right a bit and then you come back? Just a few movements, just like a test movement to see how far can you go without straining and without pushing it to the limit. Go to one side first and see how easy is that to do. And then explore the other side and see if you can sense a difference. And often people find that there are differences in the way how far you can reach with the hand. And notice, I see some of people going already from side to side. Do that very slowly and notice when you go from side to side, do you feel in any way that you shift your weight underneath your feet? Or does it stay where it is in the middle, or does it shift more towards one leg or stay over one leg? Just become aware of it. Good. And then leave all that and please lay down on your back, on the floor, lay on your back. And lay down, if you can, with your arms down near your side. If you can, with your legs long, but if that is not comfortable for you, feel free to bend your knees and to stand your feet. Just like that, exactly. Just lay down and just take a moment to sense yourself in how you are resting on the floor. Notice the way how your back rests on the floor. How much of your back is resting on the floor? Can you feel your shoulders and your shoulder blades? Do they feel they have the same contact, or is there more weight on one side than the other? Don't change anything, just observe, sense yourself. Notice when you travel with your attention a little bit further down along to your ribs on the right and on the left side, how much do the ribs on each side make contact with the floor? And then travel with your attention further down towards your lower back, and notice for many of us, for most of us, when we have the legs long, the lower back has very little or no contact with the floor. And just get a sense, how is it on the right? How is it on the left side? How much space is there between the lower back and the floor? And notice how your pelvis rests on the floor. Just get an overall sense of yourself. Good. Now, please bend both knees and stand both feet about hip width apart from each other. Good. And take your right arm and your right hand and bring your right arm, touch with your right hand the top of your head with your right palm. And then you begin to slide with your right hand over towards the left, like in direction of your left temple or above the left ear, just where you can reach easily. So you have a little bit like of a bend there in the wrist, and part of your right lower arm rests maybe on top of the head. The elbow is bent out to the side, the right elbow. And now with very small movements, you can think that your head and your arm are like kind of like one package. And you begin to slide your head and arm over to the right and down a bit. So you side bend to the right. So you slide over to the right as far as it is easy, and then you slide back, just a few movements. And see how much movement is happening there in your neck. Often we have a lot of the neck can move quite a bit, but see what is happening actually in your trunk, in your chest, when you move, when you slide over to the right. Place your left hand on the ribs on the right side. Just like lay them there. And notice if you can sense a motion when you do a side bending to your right, that something happens there to the ribs on the right side. And get this sense that the ribs on the right side could shorten a bit, and that you slide your head and arm over to the right and a little bit downwards in the direction of your feet, so that you get more of a side bending there. Good. And can you sense that the right side shortens a bit? What happens with your left side? Place your left hand on the ribs on the left side and just monitor when you side bend to the right, what happens here on the left side? Is there anything happening there? Good. And see when you do that motion that you don't roll your head on the floor, but that the head remains with the back of the head on the floor and your nose does not begin to turn. You begin to slide on the back of the head to the right, just like what's easy, not to an area of discomfort or pain, just what you can do very easily. Good. And then leave that and bring your arms back. You can keep your knees bent if you want to, and just pause a moment. Now, keep your right knee bent and your right foot stays on the floor, and extend your left leg. The left leg is long, the right leg is bent. And begin now to slowly to press a bit into your right foot so that your right hip lifts a bit away from the floor and the pelvis rolls to the left. So you want to roll your pelvis to the left by gently pressing into the right foot, and then you let the pelvis come back down and settle for a moment. And then you start again to let the pelvis roll over to the left as you press into the right foot. The right hip moves slightly. It's just like maybe an inch or so away from the floor. It's not a big movement. And notice how more of your weight rolls over to the left side. Can you sense how the ribs on the left side take more of the weight there? Good. Now take your right hand again and place it into the same place as you did before, over your head. With your right hand, get a hold of your left temple or above your left ear. And now you're going to combine that rolling of the pelvis to the left with the side bending of the head to the right, very slowly. And then you bring it back. You bring the head, slides back, the pelvis comes back. And you do that very lightly. As you press into the foot and the pelvis rolls to the left, you side bend to the right. And make it so that you have that sense that feels like as if it's one movement and not just like two separate movements. And notice what happens on your left side, what happens in your chest on the left side, what happens on the chest and the ribs on the right side. Do you sense a difference there? Can you sense how the ribs on the left side, how this whole side feels as if it gets longer, while the right side feels as if it gets a little bit shorter? You make sure that your head stays parallel to the floor, so you're not rolling the head, but it really is a side bending. The head slides on the back of the head a little bit to the right and back, just like that. What you can do easily, not to the extreme. Good. And see that you do that motion as you exhale. So as you exhale, you side bend to the right. That's nice. And then, and you inhale, you slide back. So you combine for a moment, like you're breathing with that motion. Just what you can do easily. Good. And then leave all that. Extend your legs, bring your arms down, and just pause for a moment. And notice after you have done movements on the right side, if you can sense differences in how you feel yourself on the right side and on the left side. You may feel differences in the contact with the floor, or you have maybe the sensation that one side feels longer or more connected. Maybe some of you can even sense differences in the breathing, in how you feel your chest on the right side and on the left side when you take an inhale, when you exhale. Good. And then let's explore the other side. So please bend both knees again, stand the feet about shoulder width apart. And this time you take your left hand on top of the head, and then you slide the hand over with the fingertips towards your right ear or the right temple, where you can reach easily. So that the elbow is bent again, the left elbow is bent. And it feels like as if you have your arm kind of like wrapped around your head, and it's just like one unit, one package. And you side bend to your left, side bending to the left, so that the elbow goes down, the head, the ear, your left ear is kind of chasing your left shoulder that also slides on the floor. That's right. Go slowly and let your head not roll, but really sliding, side bending, not a rolling. Just what you can do. And notice, how is it on this side? Only to the left and then back to the center again. See that you can breathe, that you don't hold your breath. Good. And can you sense emotion in your chest, in your ribs? What happens now in your ribs? And what kind of image do you have of your ribs? Do you think of your ribs being a very rigid structure? Or can you think of your ribs being somewhat elastic, that can deform, that can shift and move. Good. And then leave that. Bring your left arm down and extend your right leg. Keep your left leg bent. The left foot remains on the floor. And now slowly you begin to press into the left foot. The right leg is long, the left leg is bent. And you press in a way into your left foot that enables you to lift only the left side of your pelvis, not the whole pelvis, only the left side. So you roll towards the right buttock. And you can even think, if you think of your belly button, think you wanted to move your belly button over to the right. You can even push your belly out a bit. See what that does to the movement. If you think of using your core, using your center in a way of pushing the belly button over to the right, if that helps you to roll with more ease to the right, and the right leg is long, but don't stiffen the right leg. If the right leg rolls outwardly a bit, allow that to happen. That's right. And notice how you feel that motion also in your trunk, in your back. Do you feel something happening, something shifting? Good. Now, keep your left leg bent and place your left hand over the top of your head like you did before. So your left hand gets a hold of your right temple or above the right ear, just what you can do easily. And now you combine the movement of side bending with your top, with your head and trunk to the left as you press into the left foot. Let the pelvis roll to the right. Think of bringing your belly over to the right. And see what happens through your chest and what happens through your spine. Do you feel emotion in your spine? See that you exhale, go only so far that it is not a strain and that it's not that you do your best here. Do less than you can. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit, but you benefit more the more you bring attention to yourself, to the sensation of what is actually happening inside of us. So rarely do we pay attention to ourselves as we move. So we have to move slowly so that we give ourselves the chance to observe more and more. Good. And then leave all that and straighten, bring your arms down, bring your legs down, and sense now how it is that you rest on the floor. If it feels any different, the way how you rest now. Maybe the sides don't feel so different anymore. How do you breathe and how far up do you feel your breathing reaching in your chest, around your shoulders, maybe around your armpits? Good. And now please roll yourself over onto your belly. If you have glasses on, please take the glasses off, obviously. Roll onto your belly and place your hand so that you can place your palm and your right palm, that you place your forehead into the right palm. So the elbow is bent, the arm is bent, your right arm is bent, your forehead rests in your right palm. And you spread your legs a bit. Don't have them too close. Good. Just where it is somewhat comfortable. And no, not everybody is comfortable on the belly, but maybe for a short moment. Let's see. Now, you keep your head in your right hand and you do a side bending to the right so that again, like the head and the arm are like one unit, and you side bend to the right so that your right elbow goes down a bit on the side and your head does not roll in the hand but stays in the hand. Make sure that you may need to make slight adjustment that you don't rub too much your nose there, right? So just what you can do easily. Easy movements to the right. Good. Now, keep your head in the right hand and place your left hand into a push-up position on about shoulder height there to the side. Good. So that the elbow is uplifted towards the ceiling. That's right. And now side bend again to the right with your head and see if you can use a little bit of a push from the left hand to help you to side bend with more ease to the right. And pay attention to what is happening in your core, in your trunk. Is it the motion only of the head and the neck? Can your trunk move? Can you shift there? And think of your ribs, that the ribs on the right side, they come closer to each other. So the intercostal muscle, the muscles in between the ribs, they can contract, and that the ribs on the left side kind of expand. So the ribs on the left side, that's where you have your left hand, that opens up a bit. Just a small movement, make a small movement. Good. Now stay side bend to the right, just like that. Stay to the right a bit, just as far as you can do easily. And now slide your left long leg on the floor closer to the right leg, which stays on the floor, and then slide the left leg back to where it started from. So you slide the long left leg closer to the right leg. And since when you do that, if you feel a sensation in your trunk, in your belly, in your pelvis, somewhere in your back, even a small sensation, very good. And then leave all that and roll over onto your back and rest on your back. And as I mentioned before, these are parts of a whole lesson from the Feldenkrais method. In Feldenkrais, we call these group lessons awareness through movement. Yeah? So you increase your own awareness of yourself through movement. And we do that, as you could see, we are not holding a position for long. We kind of like, we move in and out gently. And we pay attention to what is actually happening. Not often in our life, we pay attention to our movement. Often we only pay attention to our life, to movement, when we get hurt or when we injure ourselves. Then all of a sudden we are on high alert for our movements. But often, if everything works fine, we're not paying attention to it because it just happens. And here we can become more and more aware of what is actually happening and what are the interrelationships of how are the different parts relate to each other. How can they move together that we move as a whole with more ease. Now, roll yourself over onto your belly again. And this time you place your forehead into the palm of the left hand. And it might feel already different. We have different histories. Maybe we had like a shoulder injury or something. So just do what you can do easily. So the forehead rests in your left hand. Your legs are a little bit spread. And now gently you slide again your whole self to the left and think that how the left side, how the muscles on the left side can contract and shorten you on the left side, and that you can open the right side, that the ribs on the right side open a bit. Create that image for yourself. Even if you don't feel it, think that your chest is elastic. It's not a rib cage. I'm German. We use the word rib basket for our ribs. And if you think of it like a basket out of bamboo or so, think of how your ribs on one side can come together, but they need to open up on the other side. Good. Now, keep your forehead in your left hand and place your right hand next to you in a push-up position. Yeah? Find a good placement for the right hand that you can press gently into it and lift your right elbow a bit. And now you take your head and arm over to the left as you press a little bit into the right hand and see if that can be of help, that you can slide with more ease over to the left and side bend to the left there. That's right. And if you think of it takes your ribs and then your spine has to move, right? Like your spine, if you think of the shaping of your spine, it's not a straight, rigid spine. It has 24 vertebrae. They can move. Yeah? And how often do we move them in this way? Now, the next time when you side bend to your left, stay there, and gently slide your long right leg closer to the left leg. It doesn't have to touch the left leg. Just bring it, slide it closer to the left leg, and then slide it back where you started from. And notice how when you use that long leg, how that connects into your hip, into your pelvis. Maybe you feel something happening in your lower ribs or around your waist on the left and the right side. Just what you can do easily. Do you breathe or do you hold your breath? Good. And then leave that, roll yourself over onto your back and rest on your back again. And sense yourself now. How is it being on the back now? Has there been already a little bit of a shifting in the way how you make contact with the floor? Is the floor a little bit easier, or do you have parts that feel heavier or feel lighter? What is your sensation? Where does your attention get drawn to? And then please bend both knees and stand the feet like that. And interlace your fingers, interlace your hands, and place the interlaced hands behind your head so that your head rests in the interlaced hands. And make sure that the hands are not in your neck. Yeah, they are really, the head is like a ball that rests in those interlaced hands, and your elbows are open to the side to the degree that it's easy for you. So you don't have to push them backwards, just like where they are. And now you keep your head behind, the hands behind your head, and you do a side bending to the right so that the right elbow goes down while the left elbow slides up a bit, right? And your whole self side bends a little bit to the right, and it opens on the left side, just what you can do easily, and do it so that your head is not rolling in your hands. It stays with the nose oriented towards the ceiling. So it's a small movement, it's not a big movement. And then go to the other side. So you side bend to the left elbow goes down, the right elbow goes up a bit. The head gets carried over to the left. And think of how your chest and ribs have to adapt to this motion. You go slowly, very gradually from side to side. And you think of what happens through my spine. Is there something that I can feel even in my pelvis? Some of you may feel it, that the pressure underneath your feet changes a bit, depending to which side you go. Just do what's easy, and you may feel differences that we all have one side where we have it easier to side bend to. So don't push this side that goes not as easy, but rather limit the movement on the side that goes easier so that you have like a symmetrical movement that is not as big. And you make that movement now a little bit smaller in size, even smaller, but a little bit quicker. That's a little bit lighter, just like plum, plum, not too big, really small. Very small, very small. Just like plum, plum. And feel when you do a light movement, light and soft. If you feel something happening in your chest, in your ribs, how they move, good. And then leave all that and bring your arms and legs down again and feel how it is now to rest. Is that different from just 25 minutes ago when we started the lesson? The way how you're resting now. And is that an experience that you feel worth redoing? Maybe you feel differences in your breathing, in the feeling of yourself, maybe even in the way how calm you are, not only in your body, but in your thinking, in your emotions. And then slowly in your own time, roll over one side and very slowly take your time to get up into standing. You don't have to rush. Take your time. Yeah, in whichever way you like to get up. You can use a chair to support you to get up, whatever works for you. And you get up slowly. And when you are, some people are already standing, others are still transitioning, so take your time. For people who are standing, just stand like you maybe at the same spot where you were standing before, so you can better compare. And you look forward, not necessarily on the camera, but like, and just get a sense for how you're standing now at the end of this lesson. What's your posture like? What's your feeling? How long do your arms feel? The feeling around your shoulders, around your neck? How balanced do you feel over your feet when you sense your feet? How much weight do you have over the right leg, over the left leg? Do you sense a difference in your breathing, in the volume in your chest when you breathe in and out, without forcing it or trying it, just letting it happen? Now we come back to a little test movement. I ask you like to slide one hand along your thigh a little bit downward. Just see how far you can go with ease. On one side and slowly go to the other side. And notice what's different. Can you go further without pushing? What happens in your trunk? If you don't do too much movement, just like with your neck. We have the tendency to do a lot of movement with our neck. Think more of how your trunk can move. You have that experience from being on the floor, how one side shortens, how one side opens. If that helps you a bit, good. Now, walk around in the room and just a few steps and feel how it is to walk after this. If walking feels different, how you shift your weight from one leg over to the other. Do the legs feel heavy? Do they feel lighter? Do you have a different sense of your balance? And then if you have a core 360, bring the core 360 and sit on it. And I know we can easily adjust the height of the core 360. Bring it to not a too high height. Like bring it maybe that your hips are still slightly higher than your knees, but not a whole lot. So it's not in a position where you feel like you're in a standing desk position or any of that. Good. And just find your place, and you have your feet a little bit apart, that you feel a good support from your feet. And now let's see how we can take some of those movements also sitting in the chair. You place your right hand with the palm on the top of the head so that your right elbow is pointing out to the side. And now very slowly, a small movement, you lower your right elbow to the right, just like what you can do easily. And then you bring it back. Not a big movement, just a small movement. And notice when you side bend to the right, what is happening in your chair, in the pelvis? Is there any motion there that is happening? And do you feel that the right side of yourself, does it go down to the floor, or does the right hip side, the right pelvis side comes up? Do it, like, organize it so that you, when you side bend to the right, that your left hip side, that the pelvis tilts to the left, that the chair tilts to the left, and the right pelvis side comes a little bit up, so that the right side shortens even a little bit more, just a little bit. How does that feel? Notice how your whole right side shortens while the left side gets open up, like the ribs here and the spine. Good. Now leave that. Take your right hand down. Pause a moment. Yeah, and as you notice, we always take pauses because we want to give our system, our nervous system that controls and organizes our movement, the time to absorb what has happened here, what is different. If we move quickly from one to the next movement, we don't have enough time to sense differences, and that the nervous system and the brain can really integrate more of those experiences. Place your left hand now on top of your head and have the left elbow out to the side. And side bend now to your left, just gently, and just sense when you do that, do a small enough movement, but feel what can the pelvis do to make that easier? To which side does it want to tilt? And you will discover if you tilt with your pelvis to the left, you will almost fall off the chair. So there is most likely, some kids really love that feeling and it's great, yeah. But if you want to keep balance, what would you have to do with your pelvis? Can you sense how you can counterbalance that motion of the side bending to the left, that the left hip joint comes up, the pelvis, the chair tilts to the right, and then when you bring the head back, it tilts back. That's right, just like that, good. And then take your hand down and pause a moment again. Now we're going to combine these two movements. So you interlace your hands, you place them on top of your head. So you have both elbows out to the side, and you do a small movement, not a big movement. So you don't want to lose balance. You just want to explore. And you lower one elbow, and notice how the other elbow goes up a bit, just a small bit. Then you bring it back, and then the other elbow goes down, and the other elbow comes up. And you do that while the head remains oriented forward. So it's not like a turning of the trunk. It's really like a side bending. And notice, how could you use your chair, the Core 360, like to help you in that motion? Can you feel how there's a tilting there, like a balance and a counterbalance? You go slowly, lightly, not a big movement, just what you can do easily. That's right. And then stay on one side for a moment and just notice how one side is shortened and the other side is open, and breathe or direct your breathing into the side that feels longer. Think of it. Just think of directing your breathing into that area where you have more space. Maybe a few breaths. And then slowly you go to the other side. You stay there for a moment and you think of directing your breathing in the direction where the elbow is a little bit higher there, where you feel it's open up a bit. That's right. And then you come back and you do a smaller movement, just like very small and a little bit, like just a small plop, plop, just very light, and see how your spine moves, how your trunk moves. That's right. That's it. And then take your hands down and just feel yourself and feel how you sit now on the chair. What's your posture sitting on the chair? Could you sit like that for longer periods now, where you feel maybe it's less effort? You find a better place on the chair. Now let's see if it even translates into standing. Get yourself up into standing again. And feel how it is to stand after this experience. So the chair has these options of side bending motion, also like forwards and backwards, but today we are focusing on the side bending motion. And notice, like, when you stand now, how you stand, and shift your weight a little bit more over one leg and then over the other leg. Good. And then take again like one hand down and think of over which leg, when you slide your right hand down, over which leg can you shift your weight? You could shift your weight over the right leg, but you could also use the motion, make a smaller movement, and shift your weight over the left foot. See if that's helpful. And then when you slide your left hand down, see how you can shift your weight more over. You can do it keeping the left weight over the left leg, but you could also let your pelvis move a little bit over so that your weight shifts more into the right foot. And you go from side to side, just like light, easy movements. Good. And then leave all that and feel how you stand. Like, what's your posture like at the end of this lesson? How upright do you feel? How much effort does it take to stand? And I see some people smiling, yeah, so I hope it was a good experience for you. And now walk around and feel how this lesson has affected the way how you walk, how you shift weight from one leg over the other leg. And if you feel safe enough, take a few steps backwards. Just a few steps, small steps, slowly. A few steps backwards and then a few steps forwards again. And I hope you enjoy the feeling of yourself, like the feeling of being more alive, like in yourself. And thank you very much for coming to this lesson. I'm here now like to answer questions around what you just experienced, questions around the Course 360, questions around the Feldenkrais method. Turner is there also like to give his input. And I'm curious to hear from you. If you don't want to ask the question, you can also use the chat. You can write something into the chat if you want. If you need to leave early, it's fine. Let me also remind people we're going to have another lesson, the third lesson on, let me double check. It is on wait 1 second. Let me see. It is on Monday, the 17th of July, 2023 at 4 o'clock Eastern time. In that lesson, we're going to do motion around like the turning. Yeah. So, but come back like with your attention, or if you have questions now, things that you want to know or things you want to share. Did people felt a difference? Maybe if people felt a difference, maybe you raise your hand. Did you feel a difference? So 1, 2. Many people felt a difference. Almost everybody has a camera on felt a difference. Well, that's, I hope, a good one. So let me hear. There's a question here in the chat. Could you please tell me, wait a second, let me just read it. Could you please tell me if this exercise are helpful for people with scoliosis? These exercises helped me with my back pain. Very good question. So scoliosis means that you, for people who are not familiar with medical terms, that you somewhere in your spine, you have like more of a bend or a twist somewhere. And that, let me say this without scaring anybody, we all have our little twists and creaks in our spine. But when you have like a more severe case of scoliosis, it really impairs your functioning. These exercises can be excellent, like for improving scoliosis. They are not a cure, but they can help you to find more ease around the scoliosis. So and you reported back also that you have less back pain. Well, that is your system giving you immediately feedback that something has improved, and you could do that without any medication. Well, that's a great thing. Yeah. So, it shows that you can help yourself to get better. Again, let me also mention self-promoting. I do Feldenkrais lessons on a weekly basis. Every week I do different lessons. It is not required to have a Course 360. We don't use a Course 360 in these lessons. And if you're interested in any of that, you can go also to visit my website and see, maybe I'll see you in some of my future classes. So I can put the link to the website into the chat, vermontfeldenkrais.com. And let me just see to everyone. Do you have other?
Thank you, Uwe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Faria. Thanks for coming.
I noticed that when I shifting weight more clearly into my right foot. When I was shifting weight, initially it was very clear in my left foot, but when I went to my right foot, it was not so clear. But after the lesson, I felt like it was clear on both feet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw some people nodding their heads, so it seems like you're not the only person with that experience, which is interesting. Yeah, when people begin to talk about their experience, often people can relate to that and say, "Oh yeah, for me, I had a similar thing, or it was different. For me, it was like that." Yeah, so it is not.
I have a question. You caution people not to get overambitious and do too much because it could cause mischief. But I find when I'm like sitting on this chair, I really want to go for it. I think it might be a little dangerous because it's it really kind of invites you to perhaps go a little more than your scoliosis is ready for. Do you have any
So
hesitations?
is that your promotion for the chair now, Turner, or
Or kind of an anti-promotion? I don't know.
So Turner, you can see how well Turner promotes our product. Yeah? No, to seriously, to answer your question, see, like when we sit on the chair, many people experience like movement in their pelvis in ways that they are not used to, and for some people it brings back also like a joyfulness in them, like they almost feel like, oh, it's like being a child, that I can move easily, smoothly in a way that I'm not used to. And like with many things where we feel like, oh, that feels really good, we can overdo it sometimes. So I would be on the side, like going really what's easy and not going to the extreme. The extreme, see what happens in the extreme, when we go to extremes, those are the areas where we tend to injure ourselves. Yeah. So staying with an ease and exploring the ease over time can expand that range. So not by forcing it, but staying in an area that is smooth and easy. And if you do that more on a regular basis, you will find that whole range expands with time and you can go further, but not because you have pushed yourself to the limit. Yeah. So it is a different concept than, let's say, stretching. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing a little bit like of a lengthening and a stretching, but not holding it and then going further and further. Really, like, do light, easy movements. Why not? If it feels good. Yeah.
I noticed in the comments that somebody mentioned that it's like riding a horse, which it kind of is. It turns out that the angles and radius of curvature, the motion on the chair kind of recapitulates what it is to be on a horse. And reaching back to the scoliosis comment, there's a whole literature on what's called hippotherapy for scoliosis, where you put people on horses and kind of jostle them around a little bit to kind of help the spine explore other postures that may help it, I don't know, find comfort in a way out of the locked in position of scoliosis. So I I kind of think it's interesting that people spontaneously think, oh, this is kind of like a horse, and it's helpful to my scoliosis, because people have used horses in that context. The thing is that oats are expensive, and horses take up a lot of room in your garage, whereas one of their chairs is kind of more convenient. Is kind of the thinking.
So Uwe, I joined the class today at 8:30. I forgot about the class.
Mhm.
And so I did only part of the lesson, and I still notice a difference.
Yeah. That's a very good comment. Like it doesn't take always that we say, oh, do I have to do this now? Like every time, like 40 minutes or so. Sometimes just takes like 5 minutes with attention, to remind yourself a little bit like, okay, my spine can move, my ribs can move, I can use my whole self. I don't have to do the bending just from the neck. Yeah. Too often we use just the neck. Yeah. Here with the chair helps us to explore that a little bit, like that we can move from the pelvis, and the pelvis carries the spine, and takes the spine, and we can move. And even if you do it for shorter periods, it's nice. And you and everybody else gets also like a recording of today's lesson. We record it right now, so you can do it at home again. Like if you find this beneficial to yourself, you can do it
Where
at
can
home.
I find the recording?
Sorry?
Where can I find the recording?
You will get it sent automatically.
Oh.
Like people from our company who know more about the technical issues, you will get sent a link to the recording, or they put it up in the form on the website that you can revisit it. Okay.
The first lesson as well?
First lesson as well. Yes. We're going to do 3 lessons. We have done, today was the second one. If you were here for the first time, you may want to explore the first one too.
I did the
Yeah?
first. I did the first.
You did the first, right?
And I really liked it.
And you really liked it. Yeah, good.
I like to share that during lockdown, I spent a lot of hours in front of the screen. And I found that after spending a lot of hours at the screen, when I got up, I couldn't start walking right away. And then when I got this chair, it was just miraculous. No problem. You stand up and start walking.
Yeah, well, that's
So
very nice to hear that you have that
yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one chair with wheels and one without wheels.
Mhm.
And I also have the button chair and the yoga thing for meditation.
Mhm. Okay.
I love it. Yes.
No, we hear that often that people find when they get up from sitting for a while in our chair, they don't have that obligate, stretch, kind of stiff kind of moment. And I think the reason is because people have been constantly moving while they're on our chair. They've been basically walking the whole time, as far as their small motions in the hip and spine, and especially lumbar spine, are concerned. So because you've been sort of walking the whole time, transitioning to actually walking isn't really a transition. You've kind of been there the whole time. But it really pleases me to hear that, because I've heard any number of people say, when I get up, I don't have that, kind of unkinking myself feeling that I used to have every time I spent hours sitting, as most of us do.
And I hear sometimes when I give consultations to people, I give free consultations. Also, like, you can sign up for a free consultation with me for half an hour, and I can help you to find better use of the chair. Sometimes people wonder or report back, well, I don't feel that I'm really moving, like I'm kind of quiet while I'm working. And even though that people feel like, it's really quiet, you do little micro movements, micro adjustments that you may not be aware, because it's not like this big expensive movement that you can also do with a chair, maybe when you have a little bit of a break. But I mean, nobody works like that, right? But you do little movements, and even these little movements are very stimulating for your system, because you also have to keep your balance. Yeah, your nervous system is constantly engaged in keeping you upright on the chair and keeping balance. And that is something when you sit in a more traditional chair with arms and backrest, your whole system goes kind of like, you don't have to do any of that. You can quote unquote relax, but you can really also like fall asleep in that posture. And then over time, that can create quite a bit of problems. As we know, as many of us know, sitting.
And to enlarge on that just for a moment, we know that people are constantly engaged on our chair because no one has ever fallen asleep on one of our chairs. It has never happened. So, it's obvious that people must be engaged because otherwise somebody would have fallen asleep.
Oh. Good. Well, if there are no more questions, you can also email us. If you don't want to raise the question here in front of other people, feel free to email us with any questions or concerns or things that came up for you. And you can go to our website. Let me just put it in the QR360.com, and you can email us. And oops, let me see that I made a mistake here. And or you can give us a call. We have people who pick up the phone. We're a small company enough, you know, where that happens. And yeah, and we love to hear back. And if you like that product, obviously we're happy if you leave a comment on our website so that other people know about it, or if you talk with someone about it. And that helps us. We are still a small startup company from Vermont. Yeah, but I think we have a very good product, and we, based on the feedback that we're getting, it has helped many, many people. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Uwe, thank you very much. That was
Yeah.
good for me too.
Good. And again, a reminder, we have another lesson on Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. If you have interested in that, please join us then. Okay. Thank you very much.
It was wonderful.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming.
Thank you. I loved the lesson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.